Good evening, everyone, to the Planning Development Licensing Committee. First item would be public speakers. Is there anybody this evening for public speakers? I think you guys are here for the strong. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so we can just jump straight to the apologies. You got any apologies this evening? Yeah.
None received, but Councillor Furman and Councillor Lester are going to be a little bit late.
Thank you very much. Right, declaration of interest. Is there anybody here with any declaration of interest this evening? No. Very much. And the minutes to approve and sign as a correct record of the minutes of the previous planning committee held on the 22nd of January. Is there any issues with the minutes? Okay, to support this, could I get a proposal, please? Councillor Stainford, could I get a seconder? Councillor Twos, could we go to the vote, please? It's carried. Thank you. And the forwarding plan. Members to note the planning development licensing forwarding plan. Yeah, Marcus.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I was just going to note that the aims and objectives item that was due to be on the forward plan for this meeting is likely now to go to the next committee meeting because the Neighbourhood Development Plan working group didn't finalise it at the last meeting and gave the members of the group some extra time to come back with feedback to the consultant. Just for awareness. Thank you, Joe.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Was there any other? Yes. No. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And takes us on to the Strongbox homes, 14-year homes in Honeston Road, Troll. Members to consider the presentation from Strongbox homes regarding the proposal for 14-year homes, land off Honeston Road, Troll. Perfect, guys. Take over.
Lovely. Thanks very much. And yeah, thank you for allowing us to come to speak to you. Just introductions then. So I'm Simon Collier, a Taunton-based planning consultant from Collier Planning, and I'm here with Bill Richardson and Yasmin Elliott from Strongbox Homes, who are a Taunton-based regional house builder. Now I've got those slides up there, but my eyes are so bad I can't actually read from that distance, but I know what it says, fortunately. I hope everybody else can see. That's okay. So I was just going to introduce just Strongbox briefly, just to for those of you that don't know Strongbox, you may be aware of their development at Amingford Grange on Ambird Lane in Trull, as well as other schemes locally that they've built over the years. One on Staple Grove Road in Taunton, a couple of sites in North Curry, at Sandhill Park in Bishop's Lydeard, and on Milverton Road in Wellington. Are their such projects in the immediate area, but they have sites across the southwest as well, so certainly across Somerset and Devon and up in Bristol Bath area. So we would like to talk to you about land at Honiton Road, Taunton this evening. That's the site there. Just to orientate you, I can't point to the screen, but at the bottom of your screen, you'll see we've got Trull, the edge of Trull, the road that sort of runs from north to south on the screen to the right of the site is Honiton Road, and at the northern part you've got Queen's College. You can just see the sports pitches, the all-weather sports pitches of Queen's College at the northern part. So we're talking about that land that sits just to the south of Queen's College and to the north of the edge of Trull, and then obviously you've got Comitro on the left-hand part of that image. If you just move to the next slide, you can just, I don't know how easy it will be for you to see, but possibly not, but you can. The reason I put that in there is to show that the site is within a very good location in terms of its proximity to services and facilities. So at the bottom of the site is sort of in the middle of the screen. At the bottom there, you've got the facilities, schools, shops, and facilities in Trull, and then just above the site on College Way, equidistant to the facilities in Trull, you've got the doctor's surgery and the local centre and Bishop Henderson Primary School on College Way, and obviously there's a bus service, as many of you will probably know, that runs along Honiton Road into Taunton. So thank you. If you could just scroll down to the next one. So that's the current local plan map. So in the planning policy context, the site is within the settlement boundary for Taunton. The whole of Trull is within the same principal urban area as Taunton in local planning policy terms. The pink area to the left-hand side of the site, to the west of the site, is the allocated Common urban extension. It's not shown on that plan because it's only been introduced in the last couple of years since the local plan map was produced. But the land immediately to the north of the site that we're talking about, which we'll get onto in a minute, is now part of an extended Haynes Hill conservation area. So that the development that we're talking about is not in the conservation area, but just so that you're aware, because it's not shown on that policy map, there is an extended Haynes Hill conservation area that sits just slightly to the north of our site. There is some hatching around the site to indicate that it is currently designated as a green wedge. But unlike all other green wedges around the town, it is within the settlement boundary of Taunton, and we can come on to that a little bit later. And if you just scroll up, thank you, just the plan just sits underneath that. That's just taken from the current adopted core strategy plan. So that shows the site being within the settlement boundary of Taunton. The green area to the east of the site is what we would all regard as the Vivary Park and Cotlake Hill green wedge, which is identified in green. The site itself is not identified in the same way. That's the green infrastructure plan within the current local plan. Thank you. So next slide. So that's the scheme. Before we just move on to just talk you through the scheme itself, that's fine. You can pull that one up and it's on there. Just in terms of the why are we talking to you about development proposals for this site, I just thought it'd be helpful to just sort of run through the wider context in planning policy terms. Nationally, many of you may be aware that it's sort of recognised by all political parties and has been for a number of years now that we have a national housing crisis. And what is meant by that is that we're not building enough homes to meet the need for homes. And that's causing a huge affordability problem particularly for young people who are struggling to be able to access the housing market in the way that people have been able to do in the past. So in the 1960s and the 1970s, there was a good supply of homes and home ownership was a realistic prospect for everyone. But the last time we built 300,000 new homes a year, which is the target that the government now aspires to, was 1969. So we haven't built that number of homes in any of the years since 1969 was the last time, and that has been the cause. The lack of new homes coming forward has been the reason why the cost of homes has gone up to levels where young people just simply can't afford to own their own home anymore. So to try and address that, the government is increasing the housing requirements across the all parts of the country, including in this area. But at a local level, we're sitting in a sort of slightly unusual situation whereby we had a local plan that was adopted in 2012 that should have been reviewed as far back now as 2017, because they're supposed to be reviewed every 5 years, and that review has never happened. So that the housing requirements in the area hasn't been reviewed now for 8 years, and it's well over, just 9 years, and it's well overdue. The other factor driving housing problem at a local level is that the local plan that does exist had a strategy to build that housing should be delivered across three large urban extensions around the town, and nowhere near the number of houses that should have been built by now have actually happened. because it takes such a long time for the scale of those sorts of sites to come forward. They're all 1,000+ houses sites, and it normally takes a whole plan period for those schemes to sort of materialise. And in the meantime, there hasn't been the number of houses built that should have been by this stage in the plan process. And that plan itself, actually, time expires in 2028, so we're only 2 years away from the position where everything that was set out in that plan should have been delivered. And in the meantime, housing requirements have significantly increased for the reasons that I've just explained, and so we need a new local plan to plan for that increased level of housing. But the local plan that Somerset Council is now looking to prepare is not going to be adopted until 2029 at the earliest, which is still several years away. And in the meantime, there's still a need to deliver houses to meet the urgent need. So in the meantime, there will be this period where proposals have to be considered against the development plan, but also all material considerations, including the need for housing and whether schemes are in a sustainable location. So factors such as, for example, the green wedge have to be considered in the round in planning policy terms while that situation occurs. So moving on to the proposal you can see in front of you, that's I've got an image just below which we can go on to in a minute that sort of zooms in on this a little bit, because it might be difficult looking at it from the distance that we are for you to see what's proposed, but I'll just orientate you briefly. So we're proposing up to 40 houses. Or I should say, sorry, before we get on to that, we've done a full range of assessments, as you would expect us to do, relating to the site. So, you know, all technical issues relating to highways, transport, drainage, ecology, landscape, you name it, we've done it. So these proposals have been informed by all of those technical studies and assessments. And we have gone through a pre-act process with Somerset Council officers. And the scheme in front of you has resulted from a review undertaken by the council's quality review panel as well. And our intention is to submit a full planning application in the coming months, which will be for approximately 40 houses. It's intended that 25% of those will be affordable housing. The scheme shows frontage development onto Honiton Road. So on the right hand side, you can see Honiton Road running along the eastern boundary of the site, and that's got the development there is frontage development to be consistent with the form of development that occurs already along Honiton Road. You can see just to the south of those houses, it's a very similar form of development. And then housing behind that frontage development, stepping down the hill, because it's a sloping site, so it's proposed to be built sort of taking into account the topography of the site, stepping down the hill, with a strong emphasis on the creation of green and blue infrastructure. So you can see that creates a buffer to the western boundary where we've got areas of green space, landscaping and drainage attenuation ponds in an area that's been designed to sort of be multifunctional in that respect. The scheme's very much landscape led, so there's a landscape architect on board who has been helping to inform and formulate the proposals, which includes, you might not be able to see, in fact, if you, well, I'll come back to that in a minute when we zoom in on the next plan, but just at this scale. So there's also the intention to create pedestrian and cycle connections from a north to connect people from north to south, and this plan shows that as occurring along the western boundary of the field to the north of the housing. In actual fact, from discussions that we've had with the council and the quality review panel, there's been a sort of a request that is moved to sit alongside the eastern boundary, so running parallel to Honiton Road, just behind the existing hedgerow there. So that plan may change in that respect. Access into the housing is in the same location as the existing field gate, which is just sort of on the junction of the northern edge of the southern field with the adjacent field. So it's just sort of the northern edge of the development. And that area of green space at the top of the northern field, which is within the area that I explained earlier, is the extended Haynes Hill Conservation Area, is proposed for biodiversity net gain measures, so that we can, achieve what we're required to achieve in terms of biodiversity net gain. So if you just scroll down to the next slide, hopefully it zoomed in a little bit, you might be able to see what I was about to say when I was talking about the scheme being landscape led. The road, which is the access, so you can see there the access into the site along the northern boundary, which runs east-west and then cuts into the site moving southwards, and that road, as it moves southwards, you'll see is a tree-lined street. So there will be we're proposing a sort of a tree-lined street that will have tree planting to sort of break up the development, soften the views of the development from further to the west, so that it's very much been designed in a landscape-led way. Although already from those views, it will be read within the context of the existing development behind it and alongside it on the same sort of contours. So I've talked about the biodiversity again. I've talked about the pedestrian cycle connections. We are aware that there is a proposal on the adjacent land to the west of the site that has been submitted by others. That's not our proposals, but we are aware that there is a planning application in proposing development on that land. So this development has been designed in such a way that it can work as a coherent housing development proposal, either on its own or in conjunction with any development that might be approved or may not be. But if it, let's say for argument's sake, if it were to be approved, it would work sitting alongside that adjacent development. So we've looked carefully at how it can work as a standalone development, or so to make sure that it works in what could be a potential relationship with development on the land to the west. And so our next steps really are to, we will be undertaking a web-based consultation with the local community. We've spoken to Troll Parish Council earlier this week, and obviously, wanted to speak with you as well to make you aware of the proposals and to answer any questions that you may have, which we'd be happy to take now. But we will be looking to, the intention is that we will be making a planning application in the spring for consideration by Somerset Council.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So really grateful for that. Have we got any points raised in the room? Anybody would like to say anything? Councillor Tully.
I live in the area where they've built thousands of houses, unfortunately. The question I have to ask, you said they're affordable houses. How many of those affordable are actually social housing? Because that's what we need here in Taunton.
Yeah, well, the intent, I think I said the intention would be that 25% of the 40 houses would be affordable housing, but that would be defined as affordable housing as defined by the government and Somerset Council as the local planning authority. So they would be a mixture of rented housing, social rented housing, and shared ownership housing. The majority would probably be rented with an element of shared ownership housing. So it would be 25% of the 40 would be that number.
Can I?
Yeah.
Well, I understand that. So 10 will be in the affordable category. What concerns me as well, are they going to be pepper potted amongst the other houses? Another development, I won't mention their names, but at West Monkton, you probably know what I'm talking about. They promised a pepper pot so that people wouldn't know who was who, and they did. They pepper potted in the corners of 4 sites. So all the social housing were in one block in the middle.
They'll be located in small groups. Obviously, it's not a big site, so there's there's only a certain number anyway. But they will be located in small groups. But they will be tenure blind, so they will look no different to the market housing.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have a couple of concerns. You raised the point to say that that there's an increased demand for housing, and I understand across the UK there certainly is. But Taunton does have a large amount of development going on. I'm the ward member for Comitro, so we've got the 2,000 houses coming with the Orchard Grove development. You say that the developments have been slow because it's slow to build the houses. I don't agree with that, actually. I think the biggest problem we've had has been phosphates, which now has been resolved within that area. I think probably the bigger problem is Taunton's one of the areas in the UK where house prices and the housing market has actually cooled off, and it's cooled off due to an oversupply and not actually the demand. The demand is in the social sector for sure, but building new homes to buy where there's clearly not that demand in Taunton because of the amount of development that's going on, I think is going to cause actually just a greater problem. A third point I'd like to raise is the green wedge, which is part of a local plan, which was put in part of the Trull area plan, which is there for a reason, to try and break up between houses and still leave some green spaces within the town area. And if you look at the map overall, you'd literally be left with the college playing fields in that part of sort of Comitro Trull area. So I do have some real concerns about that green wedge.
Come back just on a couple of those points, if I may. Just on the phosphates, you're absolutely right. A large contributing factor to slow delivery of some of the urban extensions in recent years has been phosphates related, because to deal with the phosphates at that scale of development is very difficult. It's not difficult for a scheme of this scale because there are credits available that would allow the scheme to not be constrained or held up at all by the phosphates issue. The other schemes were all, well, certainly some of them, Comitro being one, was all designed and negotiated before the phosphates issue, so it became a double whammy problem. A, in terms of there was no mitigation to deliver to address the issue, and B, any mitigation issues have a significant impact upon the viability of what had already been agreed, because the mitigation comes at a massive additional cost. So that was there's a combination of factors there. That wouldn't be an issue here, and the government is seeking to ensure in the future that local plans deliver and local planning authorities deliver a range of different sites and sizes to ensure that you don't get a situation that has occurred potentially in Taunton, where all of the housing requirement has effectively been identified on large urban extensions, which are more likely to be slowed up in terms of problems because of the complexity of them.
But you haven't now. That's the thing. They are building now again.
It's only the phosphate issue, for example, has only just resolved itself, hasn't it?
But that's why they're building again. But the demand has slowed for sure. That's why house prices have come down.
Yeah, go on, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I'm planning manager at Strongbox, Bill Richardson. Yeah, it's a good point that you make. I have to agree with our consultant that there is a housing crisis in the UK, and there is a massive historic backlog. We do not build anything like we used to post-war, my daughter lives in Taunton. She's looking for her first home on a very modest wage. She can't find anything. So, you know, there are a lot of people that have the benefit of living in their own home with a mortgage or paid off. And this is a crisis more for the young trying to get on the housing ladder. And that will be helped globally by building, you know, not globally literally, but by building more homes for people to live in. Yes, the market is slow at the moment, extremely slow, but as a house builder, you have to take a long-term view because there are peaks and troughs, and it is a terrible time to be a house builder at the moment. There are a lot of SMEs, house builders, that are in danger of going out of business, to be quite frank. And that's because A, the problem of planning and a very negative planning system, and B, the problem of buyer demand. you know, because the confidence has gone out of the market at the moment. But that has to be seen as a short-term thing. When we plan sites, we're looking at occupations and sales 2 years, 3 years advance of securing planning. But as Simon says, for some of the larger sites with more infrastructure to unlock, those can be really slow. And to have a strategy that's highly reliant on the Cromartrode strategic edge of settlement sites is very risky. This site is not an edge of settlement site. It's very much surrounded by local services. It functionally relates to Taunton. And if you look at it as a green wedge, it does not fulfill the function of a green wedge. It is completely surrounded by housing and development.
Can I was just going to add on the green wedge question, if I may. I don't suppose we could just bring up right at the end of the presentation. There was a couple of images which I put on there just in anticipation of being asked questions about the green wedge. I don't know if we could pull that back up. So I live in Taunton, I work in Taunton. I've lived in Taunton for over 40 years. So I'm very familiar with the history of green wedges in Taunton. And I've put this plan here just to sort of illustrate the point. So Taunton has grown over many decades in a certain way, with the green wedges, the core green wedges, being a really important part of how it has grown. But the green wedges that have traditionally have sort of evolved over those decades are in the places, the three locations where you've got the green dots and the arrow. So you've got going in the western direction, you've got the green wedge where the River Taunton and the railway comes in, and obviously it's land that floods and has never been developed, and it's natural green space for functional purposes. And the same can exist, the same occurs to a lesser extent now because it's closed up a bit, but in the other direction, heading towards the eastern side of Taunton, sort of through where the river and the canal runs, that was the traditional green wedge. To the south, you can see the green wedge, which is the traditional green wedge that we all know as the Vivary Park and Cot Lake Hill green wedge. And the point of the green wedges is that it brings the countryside into the town centre. So in all three of those locations, you can walk from the countryside through green space, through those corridors, right into the town centre. And the Vivary Park and the Cot Lake Hill green wedge is a good example of that. Obviously, you know, Vivary Park means that you're not going to have any development on it, and then you've got the Cot Lake Hill special landscape feature beyond that as well. We're not proposing development within any of those traditional green wedges. As you can see from that plan, that's taken from the local plan map, and I think the other plan that was slightly above it was from the 2004 local plan, to show how it's sort of been the case for decades. The site that we're looking at, which is where the red dot is within the settlement boundary of Taunton. Now, in planning policy terms, that's called the principal urban area of Taunton, and it includes the whole of Trull, including our site. So Trull is not seen to be different to the rest of Taunton in planning policy terms. It's all part of the principal urban area. So it's not like we're proposing to build on one of the traditional green wedges that has defined Taunton for decades. It's within the settlement boundary. And another thing I would just like to say briefly is that in any case, a green wedge is a local designation. So it's not an area of outstanding natural beauty or a green belt, which are national designations and have the protection of national designations. It's a local designation, and of course that's fine for local planning authorities to so designate land, so long as by designating that land it's not constraining its ability to meet its housing requirements. Those requirements change over time, and so the circumstances by which land needs to have special protection needs to be reviewed and evaluated based upon, well, is it constraining our ability to deliver housing requirements? And because that changes, it becomes that the circumstances and the considerations change over time as well. So, I mean, you're probably aware that Somerset Council have recently undertaken a green wedge review, and I'm not going to comment upon that because it's not a review that we've undertaken, but that's occurred because of those circumstances that I've just explained. And it's not a case that development can't occur in green wedges. The Killings development, for example, that was built started to be built 10, 15 years ago, was built in a green wedge. And that's because sometimes there is a need to develop on land in sustainable locations that might just so happen to sit within a green wedge.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you very much. Right, we've got quite a queue of people up, so I will quickly just jump in, and then it'll be Bryony, Councillor Twos, Councillor Furman, and then Councillor Stainthorpe, if that's okay. So a few things I just want to raise. Obviously, going back to the green wedges or any green field, at the end of the day, if that area has been designated for development or it hasn't, these fields, and they're fields, once they've been built on, they can never really be turned back into green. So we want to make sure whatever goes in there is better than what's there, because let's be true, most new homes, most developments in Taunton, in my opinion, then they're not done to a great standard. So what makes you any different? So that's one question, and that's another reason why there's a lot of new houses still up for sale, because people don't trust how they're developed. It's just my opinion. And I, just going back to your presentation, I think we've spoken for 20 minutes, and I think we're probably more confused about its development than before it started. My opinion, but yeah, in my opinion, I love what you're doing. It kind of looks like every other development that wants to do the exact same thing, and that is my worry, really. I've got a queue of people, so if we go through the list,
Take them all, and then we'll come back.
one more round of answers, and then we'll finish that.
Thank you.
So, Brian.
Thank you. I'll keep it quick. So my background is I've worked in social housing provider for the last 10 years. So the term about the national housing shortage crisis obviously gets thrown around a lot and gets used a lot. Is this answering a specific requirement for Taunton? Because when I was having a look, I'm aware that our longest waiting lists are for those entry-level one-bedroom properties. That is, it outstrips demand. There's a couple of fold over when it comes to waiting list for housing. I couldn't see on the presentation how many one-bedroom properties are in there. I'd be interested to know what the tenure of the properties are. At the moment, we have, I think it's for social housing, for one-bed properties, for every single one that comes up, we have over 13 people apply for them. So there is a shortage there. And also, just to say about the earlier point about the affordable housing, is not the same as social housing. Obviously, affordable housing is based on the local housing allowance base rate, whereas social housing only ever goes up by inflation. For Somerset, this is. So in real terms, financially, that is a big difference to someone who's looking to rent one of those properties. But yeah, I would like to know what the allocation of one bed, two bed, etc. is. Thank you.
Councillor Twos.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thank you very much for giving up your time and coming to talk to us. We do appreciate it. You may have mentioned it. I think you mentioned pedestrian access, etc. And I don't know the area, but what's the access currently to that site, either formal or informal, for members of the public? Can you cross that land? Can you run across that land? Can you walk your dog across that land? And if there are footpaths or rights of way, are they getting kind of adapted to fit in with your plans? I don't know if you want to take
Go for it. And then would you, so it might make sense, build up all the questions, you throw into the answers. Does that sound good?
Yeah. So any more? Yeah.
Councillor Furman, then Councillor Stainthorpe, and I think we're there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so I represent Stead Grove, and there's going to be at least 1,500 homes being built there in the next 5 years. Some of those homes will be social rent, but a lot of them will be out of the market of young people like your daughter and like me, because I'm also trying to buy a home as well. So I don't feel that this would actually contribute to that need that you have identified. And I feel like with all the other developments that are going on around Taunton, I don't think this would be as much benefit as is necessary. So I'm not too happy with the proposal, but from a technical standpoint, there's not any particular problem with it.
Perfect. And then Councillor Steinfeld, please.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think the last few comments have summed it up, but you're looking at 40 homes next to 2,000 that have been built in Orchard Grove, which do actually cover some of the issues with smaller sized homes and social housing. I think it is just another 40 houses stuck onto it. Really, it's a green space that currently is utilised, and we do need to have as many green spaces as we have. It's not about saying it's a protected green wedge by law. No land is protected that way, to be honest, in towns. But the fact is, we've got to look at making sure that there's space for people, for children. You know, we don't want to live in concrete jungles. That's something we really want to avoid. Taunton's not London, you know, and the housing market has slowed. Yes, the UK needs houses, but Taunton doesn't have the big pool in terms of employment. So you've got to look at what the needs are, and where our needs are very much one bedroom properties, a development of 40 houses like that, they're not going to satisfy that need. So it just looks like, to me, it's another development just of houses that you want to sell. I don't really see much more than that.
Do you want to come on to those in a minute? I was just going to say,
Should we jump onto your answers now? Does that sound good?
yeah, great. Yeah, so I'll pass on to Bill to answer a couple of those in a moment. I was just going to say, apologies if we confuse you. I thought it would be helpful to explain why we were proposing the houses rather than just that we are proposing the houses, which is when we spoke to Troll Parish Council on Monday, I think they probably found that quite helpful just as a context. So the intention was not to confuse, it was trying to assist. In terms of the question about is there public access on the land? No, there isn't. There's no public rights of way. There's no public use of the land. It's been used as farmland with no sort of community benefit in that sense. Bill, do you want to talk about?
Well, yeah, I was just going to pick up on that point on footpaths. At the moment, no children play on it, no dog walkers use it. To go down Honiton Road, most people wouldn't know it was there because there's very high hedges, and you know it's two very isolated fields near between Trull and Cromitro, etc. And so you know, there is an opportunity here to open up public benefit and permeability walking and cycling routes through that site and between Trull and other parts of Taunton. So from that point of view, it's an opportunity to develop this site, and not least because we can introduce significant play area and public open space. So that's my comment on that. Regards affordable housing, we've not put a mix together specifically. We're out for consultation at the moment, and we'll take any views in terms of what the perceived or actual mix or requirements are. You know, we will certainly be liaising more closely with affordable housing officers close to a submission to get any of that right.
But I think it's fair to say it'll be a mix of
yeah,
sizes.
Yeah, at the moment we're probably assuming a mix of 2 and 4 bed houses. So
and it may be that the affordable housing may have will likely have a different mix to that, because that will be defined by our negotiations, discussions with the housing authority
across different tenures as well, different affordable tenures. I mean by that, but obviously, you know, the open market housing is needed to provide that. The affordable homes. So I'm trying to think of any other questions that we might have not answered.
There's a comment about stable growth. I don't think there was a question necessarily in there.
It was just what I said.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Is there anything else anybody would like to raise? To know or anything like that? Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that your application is looking about going in about spring, is that right?
Planning applications like to be
submitted. Well, we've got a draft website to go out with, some similarly based on this sort of layout in the next few weeks. Hoping to go out in March for a few weeks, some time to take heed of comments, and then submit an application late spring, early summer. Yeah, so that's the timings we're looking at.
Yeah, if you, like we said, it will come through the portal anyway. We'll make sure, could look through and stuff like that. So, yeah, thank you very much for your presentation this evening. Really am grateful for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Safe journey. Thank you.
I can charge you that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shall I just go? Yeah. Right, the next item on the agenda is Neighbourhood Development Plan Working Group. Members to note the update from Neighbourhood Development Working Group. Okay, so this was last Thursday. Very good meeting. Had members of the public arrived again. Went through all the normal things about the project plan as a checklist to ensure regulatory compliance, best practice. Also, we looked at the aims and objective, major focus on the meeting, which held a national policy, existing core strategy, emergency sunset local plan. We looked into sustainable and green development, housing diversity, community benefit, culture, arts venues, reuse of or existing buildings over demolition. We also looked at transport and parking, how active travel, car access, etc. We also looked at the town centre vision. Obviously, one of the main things we want to do is make sure we're efficient. Nothing really overlaps with anything that's currently existing. So working alongside with Somerset Council or any other groups on this is really making it more efficient. We also looked at the heritage and design, connectivity before town boundaries and consultation planning. Other points were raised were the housing densification, digital infrastructure and future proofing, importance of engaging business in consultation, ensuring evidence base and document storage are maintained long term. I think, yeah, really we're booking on for the next meeting, which is roughly in about 3.5 weeks time, which is, what is the date of that next meeting?
I believe it's the 12th of March. Yeah.
12th of March. So obviously invitations will be going out again, maybe a week before with the agenda. So if there is any parts that you would like to comment on, that would be helpful. And also there was an email sent out maybe about 2 weeks ago that if there were any items that you'd like to raise or have a comment or a say on, please email that roughly about a week before our next meeting. So yeah, it was a very good meeting. Is there anything you want to like that?
No, thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was a good summary. Just to say, obviously, the aims and objectives will be coming to this committee because it's you as the parent committee of the working group that approves the formal documentation. There will be a reference to the Neighbourhood Development Plan at the annual town meeting on the 24th of March at the Brew House, and there's also a promotion on it in the posted version of Peacock Post, which is going out next month as well. So hopefully drawing a lot of interest up into the plan, because obviously it has to be put to referendum when it's completed. So to ensure that it's successful, it does require a big awareness push. So a lot of the budget for the project will be spent on sort of that comms element, as well as helping with consultancy. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll just note that. Yeah, thanks so much. Right, the next item is the National Planning Policy Framework consultation. Members to note the update from the Deputy Clerk in regards to the National Planning Policy Framework consultation. Members to consider the recent publication of the revised NPPF and whether to submit a town council response to the consultation which closed on the 10th of March 2026. The revised document states that the 12 most significant forms are in summary. 1. A permanent presumption in favour of suitable located development. Number 2. Building homes around station. 3. Driving urban, suburban densification. 4. Securing a diverse mix of homes. 5. Supporting small and medium size. 6. Streamlining local standards. 7. Boosting local and regional economies. 8. Supporting critical and growth minerals. 9. Embedding a visual led approach to transport. 10. Better addressing climate change. 11. Conserving and enhancing the natural environment. And 12. Taking a more positive approach to the use of heritage assets. Well, update to do, really, isn't it?
Well, I do
Go
have
for it.
this, I think I teased at the last meeting about a webinar I was going to.
Yes.
I'm all clued up, Chair. So happy to share the slides from that briefly with you. The one thing he did stress is that it's actually a really complex document, and in terms of responding to the government consultation by the 10th of March, I don't know whether there's value in us as a town council open to views, but it sounds like there's like over 100 questions, quite technical. There will be responses sent by the bodies that represent us as a sector, so now SLCC. I think he said that NALCON was due to be released this week, but I haven't seen it yet. I've gone on their website, so they haven't released it as yet. But if I just quickly run through the key points and these slides. So it is a really significant change to the national planning policy framework, most significant rewrite in over a decade. The NPPF is the central planning document in England, which all planning decision makers must have regard to and spans all aspects of planning. It's major and far-reaching reform, and the aim is to speed up and streamline planning decision making and make it more certain and rules-based. So a developer or an individual can know that if they meet certain criteria, they're not going to be subject to the whims of the system, and that they likely will or will not gain approvals. The government also wants to accelerate housing delivery, support economic growth, infrastructure and energy, and improve the approach to climate change. And this underpins other priorities of the new Labour government. Many of the proposed changes are strategic, and it's difficult to say at this stage what practical implications they will have for local councils. As I said, the consultation poses 225 questions, many very technical in nature.
Isn't that the reason I've done it?
One of the key things that's going to be new is national decision-making policies, or NDMPs. So you've got that local policy. These will sit above and be policy principles set by the government, and they will replace similar local plan policies, including neighbourhood plans, and all plan makers should not duplicate, substantively restate or modify them. So if it conflicts with national policy, don't even start, essentially. It has to be in line with that, because, as you say, they won't be given very limited weight in planning decision making. This is just an example of a policy that you talked through. Spatial strategies, that's going to be coming down the track in terms of the mayoral combined authorities. So maybe where this area may be part of the, is it called the heart of the Wessex one, with Wiltshire and Dorset. So the guy who did the training, he's part of one up north, and they said that what will happen is that they will set out a strategy for a sustainable pattern of growth covering a period of at least 20 years, including apportionment to local planning authorities of their needs for housing and other uses best considered at that strategic scale. So they may say, Taunton, you need to have 20,000 more houses in the next, or whatever, and then Wells, you need 10,000. So they'll be making those broad locations for strategic development, including new settlements, major urban extensions, major cross-boundary development, and key locations with the potential for new homes and jobs. So local plans, as you're aware, some started working on theirs. They've now got this ticking clock on them, 30 months. So I believe Sunset believe they can meet that time. And I think the officers at the neighbourhood plan working group were talking about that, weren't they, in the last
They seem
meeting?
couldn't really go 30 months, but if there is an extent, they are hoping for an extension. That what they said, because they reckon it's just too much of a push. I was reading that.
So expected to be much more slimmed down, should allocate sites to economic growth. The Secretary of State will have the power to intervene in their preparation. And they will weaken the wording down to informed by positive community and stakeholder engagement. Whereas I think before it was stronger in terms of how they had to consult with the local community. Neighbourhood planning, obviously interest to parish councils like ourselves, generally quiet. Removes lines on neighbourhood planning, giving communities the power to develop a shared vision for their area, and that they can shape, direct and help to deliver sustainable development, as well as removing that the policies it contains take precedence over existing non-strategic policies in a local plan covering the neighbourhood area, with an emphasis that they should not limit or replicate national policy. A new approach to presumption in favour of sustainable development, including a much higher density, but outside of settlements, much less permissive. So, and then lists forms of development that are acceptable. So they've got this, which I think the plan is using called train belt, which is what you said listed in the around train stations, a presumption in favour. But again, there's that thing around the local planning authority being able to show a 5-year housing land supply, and there's going to be real risk if the local planning authority cannot do that. Making effective use of land, so that's a new chapter in the MPPF, a fundamental objective, and then talking a little bit about the densities there. Brownfield land should be the first port of call. Maintains the emphasis on the need for good design. Provides high level guidance on good design for residential extensions. No real change on climate change and sustainability. New mention of wildfires. And there's mixed opinions on whether it goes high enough. Conserving and enhancing the natural environment where possible. Greater protection for important landscapes, good quality agricultural land on the coast. Some other points here around substantial weight should be given to economic benefits, commercial development. Strengthened approach to unauthorised development enforcement. Viability one, there's quite interesting, I thought, around the reducing the ability of developers to use viability arguments to negotiate down affordable housing, because you often see that where they put in and say, oh, we're going to go 35%, and then they say, oh, actually the market's changed. So that's quite a positive change. Initial reaction has been positive from the developers, broadly positive. Planning officers neutral. Some local authorities have expressed concern about loss of local power. May restrict power of communities to set higher standards.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Marcus. The only thing I would like to say, and this only from a construction point of view, that I think definitely needs to be definitely addressed at some point, that I think with more and more cuts on say Sunset Council or even on county level, when constructions and when we're talking about developments are going in, you get building inspector, he'll come along the way, but really, you know, back in the day when, you know, Somerset Council used to have so many building inspectors on, instead of having so many private ones, I just think the finish of the work and the overhaul of how things were checked, I think it's just a lot better. And that's my only concern, you know, just going back to, you know, what makes that, you know, their company any different than the other companies that are here today. And I think, you know, I think that what you've updated is great, thank you. But I think there's actually more depth on actually how to get the quality there. You know, the technology has boomed in the last 20, 30 years, but I think construction has actually got worse. I think like it may be more efficient, but I think it's getting worse. So I think we're kind of missing a trick here. Is there any other questions? That's the staple.
Thanks, Chair. It was sort of along what you just said. There's a comment in there about you know, retaining quality homes. I have a big question for the quality of homes right now. I've seen some of the comments online about the new developments around Taunton. People living in the houses, these aren't people just looking at them. And it really does worry me because I think it's about profitability, not about housing. And the government just want to tick boxes to say, let's just get more houses built. Are they being built properly and are they being built in the right places? They see the southwest as being, you know, a lower densely populated area, so an opportunity for more people to live here. But when there's no jobs, what does that then create? And so I have some real concerns in taking away any sort of power, because planning committees don't have huge powers, but you have some influence. By the looks of this document, it just takes it away, and then you just say, what's the point? And then local residents then start to question if they've got any say in the very place that they live, in the town that they pay council tax on, that actually pays for the planning officers and everybody else. You know, it's a bit unfair to expect the public to pay for services they get no say on, and I think it will come back to bite the government actually at some point.
Much. Is there anything else? No. Councillor
Yes, with the minimal changes to the climate change and environment within the document, is there any sort of focus on asking or saying developers have to put things like solar panels or heat pumps or anything else that's going to help improve the energy consumption of the individual house and reduce their energy bills?
I think
I think solar panels has recently come through as a building regs requirement. I think when we went round the Orchard Grove, they were like, now
I think now they have. Is it just that development?
I'm not sure that's.
I know it's
Yeah.
it's a legal requirement in Scotland. I don't know if they put it as a legal requirement. I don't know, but I know that when we went to Doctors Grove, they said all of their new builds now were being built with.
it's advised to help.
Is it advisory?
Their application, but I think with how things are, what they're trying to do is to push the percentage to be required, if that makes sense. So they'll say, oh, you know, say there's 10,000 houses getting built per year, 50% of those houses have to be built to either an air source heat pump or solar panels.
In Norton, there was a historic tree that was cut down because the houses had been built, the developer had sort of come back and they chopped down the wrong tree. And it took a while for any kind of legal action to come through. So I don't know, I saw the presentation there was about changes to enforcement. Is that sort of like a speeding up the process, or is that still going to be going through the same systems?
I don't know the answer to that, Chair, but I can take that away and get the written answer if that's okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Anything else? Anybody? Do you? I personally think with the time and everything, do you think Taunton Town needs to do a response for the consultation? That's from.
I don't think we're going to be able to produce a thorough
Yeah.
response to it. I agree, just the comments we made tonight.
Yeah, I think, yeah, if those comments we could get some clarity on them, then that would be brilliant. Okay. Okay, guys, right, let's go on to the next item then, which is which Ministry of Housing, Community and Local Government consultation on reducing the prevalence of private estate management. Members to consider the recent Ministry of Housing, Community and Local Government consultation reducing the prevalence of private estate management. To submit a town plan to the consultation, which closed on March 2026. Sure, that's it.
Okay. We've moved on to the next.
Is that? Have I jumped one?
We've done the MPPA.
Yeah, we've done that. Yeah, now it's the ministry. Should we vote then?
Yeah, vote not to make a.
Yeah.
council response.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so could I get a proposed to not comment or send a response? Councillor Toots, could I get a second there? Councillor Furman, could we go to the vote? It's carried. Thank you very much, sorry about that. Right, yeah, number 8, I shall pass over to Marcus.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. So this is another massive consultation. This one was sent to me actually by Simon Fox, who, as many of you know, is the major projects planning officer for Somerset Council and has a lot of involvement with the Orchard Grove estate and the State Grove estate. And yeah, there's 156 questions in this one. But obviously, the council has a stewardship working group. There has been a land adoption policy that's been recently went to Operations and Assets Committee, which touched on some of the issues around new estates being built in the town and the town council appetite for having a role to play in that sphere, and that policy is coming back to the Finance and Governance Committee next month on the 17th of March. So it's been put on sort of the radar of you as a committee. I mean, there are some quite interesting questions that are flagged here, that have flagged you know, would the following amenity types benefit from common standards: highways, sewers, pumping stations and drains, sustainable drainage systems, public open spaces and green infrastructure? And what do you see as sort of the main benefits of using common standards? Would you be in favour of common standards serving as adoptable standards for amenities, where appropriate amenities are subsequently maintained at public expense? There's a section on common standards, and then there's a section on mandatory adoption, sort of saying, why do you think fewer amenities are adopted now compared to the past? Should amenities which are not generally for the benefit of the wider public be subject to mandatory adoption? Which public authority could adopt each type of amenity: highways, sewers, pumping stations and drains, SUDs, public open spaces and B&G other? Should there be a process for agreeing exceptions to adoption on a case-by-case basis? Sorry, Chair, I just want to make sure I capture all of the sort of questions that I think may be of interest to the committee. Data and transparency. Should public authorities be required to publish clear policies on the adoption of estate amenities? Financial sustainability. Should a financial sustainability and affordability test apply at the planning stage / point of sale / both? Should developers and management companies be required to establish contingency or sinking funds for major repairs? Do developers, management companies and public authorities also require a mechanism to resolve disputes regarding amenity adoption? And that's quite an interesting one, because we know that there are estates in the Taunton area such as Waterleys that were built out 25 years ago, still owned by the developer, still in this sort of weird limbo where they've not yet been adopted standards because the commuter sums have run out, have dropped in terms of their management and maintenance. And you sort of think, why is there not a mechanism to resolve those disputes would be a potential thing. And you see those in those estates, and there are other estates in the town that are also still awaiting adoption.
One question on that, Marcus, for that Waterley estate, this is just me kind of not understanding, but are those people still living on those estate to the private estate management, still paying a monthly sum?
No, Chair, so they don't pay, there's nothing in their deeds to, but as with like the Ultra Grove, for example, they're selling
Taking
a management company. The expectation was there would have been legal agreements signed that the local authority would adopt when certain criteria is met, and then the certificate is signed up. So I understand with that one, actually, they're hopefully getting close this year, but to show you how, 25 years on. Along it can sometimes. Happy to take any questions. Sorry, it's a huge document.
Yeah, I think probably we're echoing the same as the last piece as well. It's probably too many questions, not enough time. But I think what we should do is any points that anybody on this committee want to raise, we just get some answers like on the last piece would make sense. The only thing I would like to say is obviously there are people that have raised this on estates in Taunton, where there is private estate management, and what they get for their money really isn't good enough. In my opinion, it's just a con really. I think those are the days of councils looking after the estates and the green spaces. That was when green spaces were actually looked after at the best. And when somebody's getting, I think that was probably the point where green spaces, especially in any town, probably were at their worst. So yeah, I'm kind of glad Taunton Town Council have taken on green space because it's proven how you can turn the wave around. So Councillor Staple, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, you. I think it does seem to acknowledge the differences between adopting from a new private estate is well and good if you can cope with what we're adopting. And I think that this is what we've seen in Orchard Grove. You go back to the old developments where lots of areas, open green spaces are adopted. They are green spaces. The problem is a lot of these developments are being built in areas that are very difficult to manage, and they have a lot of suds and attenuation basins and retention basins and pumping stations. And these things are all out with the capability of a town council. So it'd be too easy to say, yes, let's adopt them all, because the cost, we couldn't manage it within the town council budget. But you don't want to leave people with, in a situation where they're just terrible, they're paying a lot of money for something that's not worth it. But I think with Orchard Grove, what we've looked at is, this hybrid situation of taking on the parks and green spaces, which is what we do well. But the specialist areas, suds, attenuation basins, pumping stations, anything like that, really has to be with specialist maintenance companies. I don't see any way around that.
Like you say, it's like an evolving framework, really, coming up to date with new technology, but also with new developments in, slightly biodiversity areas, but also how weather affects those areas as well, because of how space is more tightened now, having to develop in these more flooded areas, which at the same time put technology in place that as a normal council wouldn't be able to maintain. So yeah, like you said, having that kind of mix up could be the way forward.
It's fine, the developers are still there, but once they move out.
Is there any other comments on that?
We just made,
Something.
yeah, with just one comment. I listened to this and it's rubbish. People fill these reports in, they'll go either to Whitehall or County Hall or wherever. That'll be the last of them. But we've done this, we've ticked that right box. I'm afraid it's right, people have got to start saying, no, we want to see things being done. And that's not happening. And reports and things like this are not going to make it happen. Sorry, I'm annoyed with it.
Is there any other points? Councillor Byrne?
Yeah, I'm very pleased to see that the government is wanting to address, the problem of private estate management, because in the area of Norton where I live, other areas of Taunton, it has just been a continuous uprise in the costs to individual residents, and I haven't seen any improvements. As much as people don't like paying tax, I think they'd rather pay their local rates to an accountable local government than to a private company that they have.
Yeah, I agree. Councillor Lester?
I agree with that. I'm glad that the government's actually doing something to want to bring these things back into family management. But is there anything within the document that actually identifies taking on Judy's point about some of the complexities of managing some of these types of types of infrastructure to actually assist councils in being able to actually make informed decisions about what they can and can't do? Is there going to be any kind of, I don't know, a central team of expertise that could be drawn on, requested or involved? Because otherwise you will effectively taking the responsibilities from the developer and giving it to another private company who you're then relying upon for the expertise to actually manage it. So is there anything within it that actually builds a wider kind of community of public ownership that has a level above which will actually help with some of these complex issues?
Thank you.
That's the question. I don't know if there is.
Yeah, I think Marcus. What might be the point of raising that again and getting some answers?
Thank you, Chair. I mean, nothing that I can specifically see around, let's talk about mandatory adoption, certain things, and I'm guessing that would mean that there would be obligations on whoever was mandatory being adopted to ensure that they had the expertise to run any of these assets. I know for the when we had the discussion on the land, the stewardship at Orchard Grove before Christmas, we've commissioned some advice on management companies and how the complexities of that. And I think once that's been provided, we'll circulate that to councils, because as you say, there's running a management company is a very different beast. And the solicitors, when we have them on call, they said that it's one of the most contentious things you can get involved in, because residents have very high expectations about the funds that they have provided. And they did say, do not enter this world lightly. But obviously I'll circulate that one when it comes in.
Yeah, thank you very much. Councillor Staple?
Yeah, just responding, that's an interesting one, Marcus, because I do think the complex situations in some of these developments are going to be real hot potatoes, and the maintenance of them is going to be very difficult. We certainly couldn't maintain them in-house. I mean, we had Paul with us, we went and looked at the site, and I think in general they were horrified when they saw the size of the retention basins. You can't keep those clean because they are filled with water. You can't walk into them or anything. So that they have to be maintained by specialists. That then means having a man who either working on inside the council or outside. And it's, if you take it on as a council, then the residents will hold the council responsible for that triangle, even though it's not us. It's
You're taking responsibility without taking control.
yeah,
Why would you do that?
but you don't have the
Without-
specialists. We don't have the knowledge to take on that part of the developments, and that's what worries me within those developments. It's how the government going to, where they're going to push that. Parks and open spaces, no problem with town at all. I think what we've done with the town council, taking on what we have already, is been fantastic. But you don't want to go and damage the town council by taking on something we're not capable of taking on.
Agree. Thank you. So I think on basis, I think there's a few little things that have been raised. I think Marcus kind of you've answered to it, which is great. If there was anything that's been missed, I think great if at the next planning meeting we could just either or an emails just sent out some answers, that'd be brilliant. But I think on this one, yeah, like we've done on the last piece, if that's okay. So could I get a proposal on that, please? Or Marcus, did you want to say something?
Sorry, Joe, I was just gonna say, do you want me to, in terms of response to this specific one, is there any of the questions that you would like me to respond on with the view of the committee, like in terms of, or do you think just at this point it's more of a just general? Because obviously there's a question here around.
What might be quite a good idea is, you know what you've got in front of you there. If you were to, if you were to send that out, kind of, if anybody's got any bits they'd like to raise, just might be like question number 10, question number 9, just send that back and then we can just compile something. Does that sound good?
For the deadline.
I think that'd be
To me to submit it on your.
exactly. Does that sound good? I'd probably say, what should we give deadline till like 29? What is it, 29? Yeah, till next Friday or something. If anybody gets a chance to have a look through it, send it on whatever question he wants. Yeah, does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so could I get a proposal on that, and please? Councillor Stainforth, could I get a seconder? Councillor Toots, could we go to the vote? That's carried. Thank you very much. The next item is Cambridge Road, Taunton Green Lane consultation. Members consider the recent consultation from Somerset Council on proposals for Cambridge Road, Taunton, whether to submit a town council response to the consultation, which closes on the 24th of February 2026. Okay, so we have sent letter, email, like I said, backdating the 7th of October 2024, which we had a response by Councillor Rigby, which was on the 7th of February 2025, and since then we have now received an email or letter, Transport Scheme Commissioning. Would you like me to read it out? So, dear resident, reference your views on possible changes on Cambridge Road. We're writing on seat residents' views and possible changes to the road layout and access along Cambridge Road, Taunton. Somerset Council exploring locations where removing through routes to motor vehicles could improve access for people walking, cycling and horse riding. Cambridge Road has been identified as an opportunity to achieve this by providing a safer route for walking, cycling to the north and south, connecting to the existing route along Gamington Stream and future routes into the Cambridge Road development area, helping to create a more attractive route towards Troll, Musgrove Hospital and the town centre. If progressed, any changes would be put in as a trial under an experimented traffic order that can last up to 18 months. This will enable residents to try it out with further consultation to inform any decision on whether the scheme should be made permanent. A potential location for an initial trial has been identified at a location immediately south of the junction of Lloyd Close, as shown on Plan 2. People on foot, wheeling or cycling would still be able to travel through the motor vehicle restriction, also known as a modal filter. This could be achieved using bollards, planters, concrete blocks, or additional signage to make road users aware of the restrictions ahead. We would therefore like to seek your views on the following. Where do you think the proposed trials to reduce through traffic on Cambridge Road? And 2, are there any other comments regarding access needs that you'd like to raise? So what this has been brought forward is for us to send another response back to Somerset Council on this consultation. I think it would be brilliant. Councillor Stainforth.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. This was one I raised a couple of years ago, and it's not far from my house. A lot of the residents affected are Lloyd Close, Deane Close, all sort of, but basically they're adjacent to Comitro Road, and they have a huge amount of problems. It's used as a rat run, basically, between Troll coming down into Comitro to get out onto the Wellington Road, and it is only a matter of time before there's an accident, serious accident. A lot of pressure is going to be put on it from the primary school, Orchard Grove, because once inevitably at some point you're going to have pedestrian access into the primary school. So if the road is kept open, there would have been temptation to drop children off on that road, making it even worse. So that was one of the reasons why residents are so keen to have it closed off. I think this is a great idea. I think 18 months would be good to see how it goes. The only concern would be how they actually, where they put the bollards and how they block it off, as to whether there's, because there are a couple of houses halfway up. So I'm not sure where the access point will be for, it's the cottages, Comitro cottages, they're halfway up Comitro Road. The problem is if they give access only, there'll be a temptation for people still to use it. So it's how they put the barriers in to make sure that it can't be used by some sort of way.
Right.
And it's I'm assuming that is a complete, when you look at it, I'm not sure. They've given 2 examples. I take it that is going to close off the road at Lloyd Close. That's what I was hoping. I'm not too sure by the picture. You see what I mean?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree. This seems like a very good idea. I know a friend who runs up Comitro Road, and I always say to him, like, how do you run so fast up there, the danger of a car coming down the other way? So yeah, I had a question about the kind of where the blocks, I understand the block on the north end, if it is the north end as it is, at Lloyd Close, but is it going to be blocked off at the top near Troll as well?
There's a house, there's 2 houses halfway down the road. That's
the
problem.
But so that's my first question. And if we're going to allow some access to the residents, I think this sounds like there's still a danger that somebody could think that the road is closed and then get into an accident with one of the residents further up the road that's allowed to actually still use it. That's my only concern.
It's
one thing I have found on these certain things as well. There was one in Glastonbury just before the old Charles Spoken building on the left, and a similar thing happened where they closed this off. You couldn't go the road into Glastonbury, you couldn't go left down this road, but you could drive up from lower. You couldn't come out of that junction. So it was really from people, but what was happening was actually there was people parking up on that road then who were taking permanent, temporary parking there. And that seemed to be an issue as well. So I think this would definitely be something for us to add on to the consultation to be aware of. Councillor Staple.
Just thinking about that, Jeff, thanks. So when they closed off Comitro Lane, which is what I live on, White Pillar Lane, at first it wasn't clear enough in terms of signposts. It just said access only. But whenever people drive up to an access only, they assume that means that they've got the access. It's just everybody else that doesn't. They would have to make it clear that the road is closed, because what you will have is people driving from Lloyd Close end. It doesn't look like there'll be a problem because it looks like that will be closed off. But what you'll have is people driving down from Trull when they come down every morning, coming down and then stopping however far down, but they could potentially get right down past the cottages. There's no turning point because it is a really narrow lane. There's only passing spaces. You can see it in the pictures. Every now and then there's a passing place. But if you have an amount of traffic all going down one way, that you can't turn around. So it would have to be really clearly signed the road is closed. That would be my thing to probably comment.
Thank you. Councillor Tooth.
Yeah, I think you just answered it there, because it seems bizarre that you would close it at one end and allow people to drive all the way. So there'll be a sign at the troll end.
Well, no, you need one because they need to be able to get into the house.
Yes.
The 2 houses is the.
But there'll be a sign at one end and then a block at the other end.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that.
I just know the practicalities of this, but I'm fully supportive of this, and I think it would be great for that road to be cycles and walking only.
Okay, Councillor Lester. Just wondering, are we aware that the people who live in the cottages that we're discussing have been specifically consulted on this? Because I think it probably
got
it's one of those things where I think if if it's going to impact them specifically, then perhaps at least they should be sent a
They
letter
have to.
or invited to comment specifically as opposed to more generally with the rest of the community.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
So I don't know how case that I can recommend that.
There is a letter going out to
There is,
the local residents, yeah,
Guess you may have got one.
yeah. One of the problems that it's just dawned on me that with the likes of the cottages halfway up that road, they don't have, they get tanked gas, so they do have a big lorry comes down that road, so they do have to have full access from the trolley end right the way down to the cottages, which is, as I say, a good halfway down. But there's no mention of what will be like at the top of the lane, but it would. This is where I'm saying maybe we raise the fact that it would have to be very clearly signposted, and the likes of a lorry going down there, how does it turn around? I'm not too sure.
We're Councillor and then Marcus that. That's good.
Would it be possible to have like a probably not wouldn't work, but like a mini side road that does connect the end, the trolley end, and just goes to those cottages.
But that's the road goes from trolley end down to the cottage.
Yes, but like as a small side road, maybe just beside it specifically for those cottages. Probably not.
No, because the land actually that's right around those cottages is all orchard grove, and they're all for houses. And in actual fact, part of it's the playing fields, I think, for the school. So there's nothing
No.
that side of
No way to, yeah. Okay.
Marcus?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think the issues you've identified, we can ensure is still captured in the response, but I think it's something, you know, in the letters, correspondence between yourself and Councillor Rigby, been raised, and it's surprising that there's nothing in the consultation document that covers this, because I think Mike's letter here, you can say is one thing to also consider is consultation with the residents at Horse Cottages, who would be most effective, and to approach our highways team with a clear proposal as to where the road would be effectively closed to traffic and where features such as turning facilities should be provided. Again, the costs of providing turning facilities and implementing the TRO if granted would likely need to be covered by the town council. So if the turning facility is not being provided as part of this,
it would be in this.
Does beg the question.
To answer part of that, there's nowhere to put a turn in head in there, because that's the Orchard Grove line that runs along the side of the road. It's not a straightforward one. A temporary closure. Who put forward the temporary closure in terms of the consultation with highways? Obviously, this has come from Somerset, and surely they have to be sure that the temporary closure is safe to do.
Sorry, Chair, so this proposal has come from the active travel team at Somerset Council. We have, as a council, have had no influence or early conversation. We were just informed that the consultation was taking place, and obviously there have been some letters back and forth. I think we did try and get in touch with the active travel team and John Fellingham at Highways to discuss this.
It says John Fitness.
John Fellingham said, "Oh, Highway active travel will be in touch," but we didn't hear it obviously until the consultation was gone live. So now's the chance, I guess, for us to influence this in the consultation.
Yeah, I think we'll go Councillor and then Councillor Stapleton.
Looking at Google Maps, I can see that there's an entrance to sort of a field that would be the Orchard Grove. I don't know if that can be used as like a turning point, final warning, no other turning points past this point.
I think it might already. There's quite a lot of work going on over there already. I don't know if it's still there.
Yeah, I haven't been down there myself, so I'm just looking at what.
I've been there. I can't remember. I've been down recently. What's still there? There's a lot of earth being moved around there.
Because that's gone, isn't it?
That's, yeah.
Councillor Stapleton.
I think we just need to make the comment on to active travel, because they didn't discuss it. These are points we raised before. How if this is discussed about highways, at a Taunton point for people accessing what's cottages or what's bridge cottages, they may be able to turn in there. If it is access only to those 2 cottages, then that may be possible. The cottages, if I remember right, I think they're owned by the council. Might be wrong. Something. I think they might be. But the other thing is stopping traffic trying to go down there thinking that they can get through. That could potentially cause a big accident, really.
Yeah, sorry, that's an impact, but I think I think what we've got here is the difference between stopping it being a rat run and stopping it from traffic altogether, because you can do one fairly simply and say you're not going to get through down there, so it's not a rat run. But that doesn't, if it's a mix, it doesn't protect pedestrians necessarily. Yeah.
So I think we obviously want to submit a town council response to the consultation. I think the items we've raised tonight, I think are pretty valid for the consultation straight away, and also things that have been highlighted in the past that still haven't really been addressed. So I think that would be really key. Have we got all of those noted?
Not down, but they're part of the transcripts. We can.
Yeah, we can pull them out from there. Is that okay? Fair casted?
Yeah, just quick. I'm guessing when the consultation closes, we'll get feedback from this committee.
Yeah. Maybe in the consultation we'll say we'd like to have feedback.
2 years.
That's
That sound good? Okay,
Yeah.
so could I get a proposer? Councillor Staples, could I get a seconder? Councillor Lester, could we go to the vote? Carried, thank you very much. Right. The next item is to comment on planning applications received from the local planning authority. The first one is 38-26-0026-8 advertisement. Display of one number of non-illuminated signs of the rear of Unit 2 Priory Fields, Taunton, retention work. Correct in saying this is the unit that we commented on with the fact that they actually did have illuminated sign after we did say we didn't want that. So they've put the application back in to now change it to a non-illuminated sign. Why they couldn't just turn the light off. Yeah, Marcus?
Sorry, Chad, there's on it was for no sign to the rear whatsoever. So this is, I think, to put in an application for a sign that's not illuminated. But just to update you, I have still the sign is still illuminated, and I have sent a further email to the agent for the applicant. They said they will tell them again to turn it off, but just to say it's still leaving it.
What is there anything you'd like to see? Would you like to have a look at any signs at the council too?
I was just going to say we could all go down there and take a picture of the planning committee underneath the illuminated sign.
I think that might be a good comment.
This one. You won't want this. You want this one not illuminated. Cheeky.
Is there any items you'd like to see on this, council too?
I have no issue with this.
Just tell them to get the light switched off.
Yeah. So to support an application, could I get a proposal, please? Councillor Tully, could I get a seconder? Councillor Toombs, could we go to the vote? Carried, thank you very much. The next item is 38-26-0030-CMA, which is class MA notification. Application to determine if final approval is required for a change of use and conversion from commercial, business and service use into one number of dwelling, class C3 at 29 Shovel Park, Stapleford.
The hospital buildings, actually.
Councillor Toombs?
Sorry, I'm eating the hobnobs. To me, this looked like it was originally a residential property.
It was.
Hasn't undergone any major changes, so Without, unless anybody else wishes to comment,
Well,
I'm happy with this.
Yeah,
It's just been.
I know which one it is, yeah.
Yeah,
Remember, with this one, we've had other ones similar. haven't
it
we?
was, the hospital used it.
Before.
Yes, I was gonna say, is this a different one or is it?
It's a
the
different
same
one. I think
content?
we had a few buildings that the houses that they
Yeah.
used it in a few.
Yeah,
It was a house.
yeah, I was gonna say, it looks like a house.
It's from back a house.
It's gold.
Okay, so to support that.
Four
There,
times.
so there, councillor Lester, there, second there, councillor Thurman, we go to the vote. It's carried, thank you. Right, the next item is 38-26-0029. Remove what I feel like I'm a bingo speaker, but yeah.
I say.
House.
Removal or variation of conditions, number 3 and 4, restriction of use on application 34-11-0020 at 29 Shoal Park, Stapleford, Taunton.
It's the same one.
And
It's just,
No problem.
so to support this, could I get a proposer? Councillor Lester, could I get a seconder? Councillor Tooth, who can the vote? Harry, thank you very much. The next item is 38-26-0031, which is full planning permission, erection of external staircase and insertion of roof lights at the jetty, Coal Orchard, Taunton. I don't see any issue with this because one of the main reasons why they're struggling to actually get these in use is because they're too big. As we're finding a lot in the town centre now, having smaller units is actually more attractive, filling them up. So the whole reason this is obviously to bring, fill the spaces really. So I haven't got any problem. It's obviously being done for fire reasons. So
Yeah.
Councillor
It's a safety.
Yeah.
I looked hard and eventually found it's not really, it's tucked away and it's away from most of the public's gaze, so it's not like it's in the front or the, where people walk. So eventually I no problem with this, and hopefully it will free up the
and really,
units.
there's already one there, so you're infilling next to another external staircase. Yeah, I didn't see any problems with this.
No.
Okay, so to support this application, could I get a proposal? Councillor Lester, could I get a second there? Councillor Tully, can we go to the vote? That's carried, thank you very much. Right, the next item is 38-26-0039, full planning permission, erection of a single story extension to the rear of the Laurels, Covey Road Orchard, Taunton.
the comments are actually very positive and supportive. Both the neighbours are quite happy with it, which is always quite nice.
Yeah, I think everyone seemed happy. The only thing that was just noted was the extra rainfall. So they just wanted to make sure that there was they're taking into consideration the increase of water intake. So I don't know whether that's something
Because
that.
they put in a soak away at the back.
Yeah, it's a requirement, yeah.
So twos.
Yeah, that was my only point, was that one respondent said that there's already water that comes down, but I don't know if we can add a comment to make sure that's, but did you say, councillor, that's being taken care of with
No,
something in the application?
In general, in my experience, the requirement for a soakaway is it was a requirement of planning that you have a soakaway designed in. If the ground will take it.
And I think that if we can note that, if it's not there or something, then that's fine.
The capacity of the soak away is good enough. That would be the.
The big erosion type of soil.
If it's clay.
If it's clay,
soak away still-
yeah, no, that's right. I've been there.
Okay, so on that conditions, I think I don't see any issues to support this application. Could I get a proposer? Councillor Stainthorpe, could I get a seconder? Councillor Lester, could we go to the vote? That's carried, thank you very much. Right, the next item is 38-26-0035-CNA, Class NA notification, application to determine if prior approval is required for a change of use and conversion from commercial business and service use Class E into 2 number of dwellings, Class C3 at 1 Hayden Road. So the only thing that I did.
Still funerals directors just off East Reach.
Yeah.
Oh,
The only thing it Does it have size of rooms on it? That was,
That's the only thing.
that's what I wanted Bryony's expertise, because she usually can tell us which ones are within permitted, whatever it is. Because one of them, I think, looked quite small.
Yeah,
There's 2 bedrooms, there's rooms already there,
Yeah,
but they've added additional ones.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was my only question, was the size. See, there isn't actually. It gives us, there's a total in the blue and it says 37 square meters. Is that?
The purple bit is one of the new ones. It's at the back.
But the blue one is also an apartment that's created, which
Yes.
I'm not sure that 37 square meters and 42 square meters. I need to check with Brian if what
Yeah.
the,
It shows as a single. Blue one, rather than a double. That might make a difference as
it does make a difference. I don't know what the requirements are.
No.
Can't remember, that's why we need Brian.
Come back to this one. Oh, no.
Human's left.
Yeah.
He said enough.
Yeah, I don't like it.
See if I can just find.
There's a wall going through.
Is that purple bit down Dennis is where they used to do
Yeah,
Ah,
that's exactly what I'm thinking.
yeah. Which you think,
the time people move in there.
We're walking past one.
you know,
I just like,
that's
So sort of like the old overlay.
yeah, I was trying to figure out, I think the new must be the vertical wall. Obviously, the one that is going halfway across the bed is clearly the old one.
Yeah.
I hope.
I see what you mean.
There's a door opening out of the bed. There's a,
Yeah, it's funeral preparation.
Which are the ones you're concerned about? The size?
No, the
Size-
the
size
size
of
of the blue one. It's drawn as a single bed, so it's obviously a one person.
Because there's a
What's the size?
one bedroom apartments. There's going to be two number 1 bedroom apartments, and then a 2 bedroom.
But what's the minimum? You know, with the gate.
Yeah.
Brian usually does that.
Bryony's guidance. We need Bryony's guidance.
What the minimum
Yeah.
standard size
Because
is.
there's a new change on the first floor at the front as well. Mark,
So
as well.
one bedroom, 1 person is 39,
Yeah.
See, and that's
That's too
37.
small then.
and then it's just why is it called 37?
That's yard.
Where a 1 bedroom, 1 person has a shower room instead of a bathroom, the floor area may be reduced from 39 meters square to 37 meters square.
So it's fine. Then.
They've just come in within the
Yeah.
guidelines.
So where are we at with this one?
It
Marcus
sounds like
checked.
Marcus just checked the guidelines. It looks like they're just about big enough.
Bryony, we need your expertise.
Which one's it?
Sorry, Marcus
Sorry,
has stepped in.
Right.
Smaller apartments, 37 meters square,
But yeah, that's fine.
but yeah, says if it's only got a
That's
shower
fine.
room, it's okay.
Took me 5 minutes.
The whole time you really, I said,
wrote it down and I didn't see it.
We won't forget now then, maybe. I'll know
Just
next
to-
time myself.
You just have a look at the changes at the front as well, just quickly to check there.
Funeral directors. Yeah.
So there's a 2 bedrooms at the bottom. Yeah, so you've got 3 bedrooms at the front of the house. What is it currently if you scroll up? Oh no, to the left, sorry. It's existing.
Not changed it.
it's not changed, it's the same.
I think they've just drawn furniture in.
No, the top.
Oh, the
Oh, they're just drawn the furniture. Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
oh, and they've added the bathroom. They've added the bathroom, they've added the kitchen. So
They've added the
7
kitchen.
stud walls gone.
It's the kitchen and
Yeah. They've moved the kitchen.
a toilet, a WC. that a shower room or is it WC?
It's a shower room.
It's a shower.
I think they've got a
It's
Preston
small.
shower in, yeah.
If you have a shower, that's what allows you
That's
to go
the
to the
37.
37.
But
Otherwise it would be 39.
so if we scroll up, because we, the blue and the blue one's 37, the pink one's
It's
42. The other one's 42, is it? That one?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's fine.
on that,
Oh, yeah, 50, sorry, I've seen that.
so on that then, to sports application.
Yeah.
Okay, so could I get a proposal, councillor Twos, could I get a second there? That's the staying for, could we go to the vote? Yeah, it's carried, thank you very much. The next item is 38-26-0042-CJ, Class J notification for prior approval for the installation of solar voltaic equipment to the roof of Goodwood House, Blackbrook Park Avenue, Taunton. I have no
No
issues
issue
with
whatsoever.
No issues at all.
councillor Twos.
Just a quick question, is they talk about the traffic, is there any obligation to let the military know, the RAF know about these things, because they shine up in the air, or am I being silly about that? There was a huge report about the traffic on the motorways included in the, and there was no problem with that. The traffic on the motorway or roads wouldn't get any glare from it, but I just wondered if there was ever, you know, the need to tell, not commercial aircraft high up, I don't mean, but I don't expect there is. But
There's lots of solar panels in Taunton now, so if there's a
Yeah.
problem, we're all in trouble.
no, it's fine.
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
I've never thought about the traffic glare actually, but no.
But no problems with it.
Yeah.
so to sports application, could I get a proposal, councillor Lester, could I get a second there? Councillor Stayford, could we go to the vote? That's carried, thank you very much. The next item is 38-26-0037-LB, list of building consent works, change of use from a former hairdressing salon and offices into one member dwelling at 15 Hammett Street, Taunton.
It's just still doing a carpentry push.
Yeah,
Sorry,
go for it. No, I'm not.
It's become more of a general discussion at this point, isn't it? Can I just look at the ground floor existing and proposed? So my only, so this is Hammett Street, I'm supportive of this. It's just that at the moment, there's an item on the news about it somewhere, and it's quite prevalent around my area, of people not taking their bins in until.
Yes.
So it's nice that this is changing, but I just don't want to see the emergence of wheelie bins outside on Hammett Street all week long. There was a photo that there's a business and there's a little inlay there somewhere that might work, but because sometimes with big funerals and the processions down, you know, people don't seem so keen to drive, which I understand, is to take their wheelie bin through the house every week and then pull it back out, especially when it's wet. But it's just, yeah, one of my things at the moment.
We'll do the bins for.
I presume there's commercial rubbish as
Yeah,
well.
there's this, but also there's dispensation if you don't have anywhere that you can actually not have a wheelie bin and just go
just
back
bags.
to your old bags, what the way
Yeah.
it used to be.
Yeah.
Well, it should be if it's not accessible.
To apply or do, yeah, there's, I don't know.
It seems to me from a historic point of view that they're actually looking after the property, or historic parts are going to be matching to what was existing. So literally from a list of building aspect,
There's no,
I haven't got any problems
yeah.
at all on this. I know on the next bit then that's full planning permission, so I haven't got any problem with this.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Questioning the
We
bins.
just get a screen view of Hammett Street somewhere, just so we can, there is on the thing. It's between two retail units.
It's next door to Carris, isn't it?
Yes. Which one is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that one there.
So Carris Refugees is next door, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, you know, a permanent wheelie bin out there starts to have trouble with access and stuff, but I don't know if we can put a note on it. I don't think it's covered as such because it's such a minor thing.
I think
Is
what
there
might,
access to the back?
I think what might be worth doing is that we go for the listed building, haven't got a problem. I think on the full plan commission, then we highlight the fact that just a comment say about
I don't mind the wheelie bins on Rubbish Day or the night before. It's just.
Wait, if it just sits.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it'd be worth including this because the application statement does talk about the waste arrangements for the premises and says that they will be curbside collection but stored at the rear as now. But I think there's no harm in you putting down in writing your concerns in relation to this, so that they're taken forward.
I can see that there's sort of like a flagpole holder on the side of the building as well. I don't know if anything needs to be raised about that.
yes. Go down this one.
Ah.
Still on there.
Yeah.
They probably.
That's the problem, but it's just.
I can't see they'd be touching that. So I think on the list of building aspect, I think we haven't really got a problem with this. So to support that, could I get a proposer, please? Councillor Tully, could I get a seconder? Councillor Twos, could we go to the vote? That's carried. Now, the next item is 38-26-0036, which is the same item for the same place, but it's not a listed building, and I think we can support it. But we can comment where we could say, I think inadequate. It says inadequate parking or servicing areas, but I think really what you could just write your own comments and say routine of bin, like
Yeah, just ensure bins are only out when, or bin bags, like you say.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Is there anything else anybody would like to raise? No? Okay, could I get a proposer, please? Councillor Lester, could I get a seconder? Mr. Stainthorpe, could we go to the vote? Carried, thank you very much. The next item is full planning permission, change of use into 2 HMOs at number 4 and 6 Billetfield, Taunton. Don't really make sense at number 4. Existing and proposed elevation, should we have a look at that first and then we'll have a look at it? Slightly up, keep going, keep underneath site location plan. Yes, yeah.
Before we get to it, I did see in one of the reports that it said that bedrooms are between 11.5 metres squared and 17 metres squared. I think that's what I wrote down.
Yeah.
This, oh, sorry. This one doesn't, it's not governed by the same rules because it's a shared property. I did look at the floor plans. We've looked at this property before. I think they put in previous planning permission. It's the one that's on the junction near the mounts. We've definitely looked at it, but I think it was a different proposal they were putting forward. So the floor plans they're on, there's no guidance around it, and they don't look too bad.
The only I put the floor plans on. The only thing, because they've got all got ensuite, which is, you know, my thing.
Yeah,
And I looked at it and thought, actually, the rooms look okay, they look an okay size. But it was when I realised that the kitchen on each side is to serve 6 rooms. That's a pretty small kitchen, and there's no living area. Each room is just a bedroom, really, with an ensuite bathroom. And then that's a small kitchen, because I think it's at it says the size on it. It's at like 11 metre square kitchen or something.
9 metres squared.
A 9 metre square kitchen.
3 by 3.
For 6 double bedrooms. Those are double beds. That could be 12 people all crammed into a very small kitchen. Where do they eat?
I was just going to say that it looks very, very similar to key worker flats that you get for normally for NHS workers that have similar to university halls of residence kind of layout.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't want to live there, but it is fairly typical of those. And it seems like, given the radius to Musgrave Park
It
Hospital,
makes sense for the hospital, for sure. It just, kitchen just does this. But I think the rooms look.
Is there anything anybody would like to raise? No? You know, we can, instead of, we can support, but we can comment, or what we can do is just comment and say, density of, and tick the boxes. And
Nice to. I think it'd be nice to comment that the living quarters, it just, the kitchen seemed very small for the density. Number of people able to stay within the accommodation. I know if there's no requirement per se, so.
so maybe we could support, but
Yeah.
we could just
Yeah.
put a comment.
Uh-huh.
I think that would be all.
As it's drawn, you've got one 4-ring oven that serves potentially 12 people every meal. Doesn't seem adequate.
Good.
But if it's within the rules, within the rules.
Okay then, so yeah, I think we'll support, but we will comment about the layout density. Just saying about the living area.
Yeah, it's the communal areas. I think that's their bedrooms.
It's normally the other way around.
Yeah, I normally complain about all of it.
Could I get a proposal on that then, please? Councillor Stainforth, could I get a seconder? Councillor Toombs, could we go to the vote? It's carried. Thank you very much. The next item is full planning permission, replacement timber frame windows with white double glazed UPVC frame windows at 16 Avenue, Taunton. I've kind of worded on this in the past on different applications. I think the fact of replacing timber frame windows, especially in an area like the Avenue, and using the excuse of UPVC for being more efficient, I think kind of baffles me a little bit, because you can achieve just as much, efficiency by having a double glazed timber window. So that's my only negative point.
Yep.
I think the house along the Avenue, whether or not they've put PVC in, whether it's right or they've not gone through the right portals to actually go through planning commission, is a different thing. I think if they probably were, I think there'd be all of the houses in the Avenue would probably be listed houses by now. Such a lovely area. So yeah, that was my only comment. The fact that I'd much prefer to see it in timber than UPVC. With Councillor Toombs.
Yeah, I agree, Chair. When I was looking at this, I thought it was a shame in a way, but there seems to be precedent. I wasn't sure where they say there's similar adjacent. I've got a feel. Yeah, do you know that there's PVC on the actual avenue? I think the adjacent ones are on a different road, but I noticed that the Live West is the applicant for this. So is it?
That's a developer, well, it's a group of developers.
So,
But yeah, I guess we've got no. I just didn't really.
like you say, it's purely down to material taste there. It's not down to any regulation, whatever. This is down to material taste. But actually, I think once you do it, then you're kind of welcoming the rest of everybody else to do it. Then I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I personally.
Is it me? I can't see it. Are they not all sash though?
The whole of the Avenue was bay windows, sash windows. To be honest, I'm really surprised the whole estate's not listed really, but
Is that
It is in the conservation area apparently.
baffles me if it's in a conservation area. Then
Yeah,
actually why it
you
shouldn't
wouldn't
be
expect
big?
it to be allowed.
As you say, there's no.
Is there anything?
I know down
is
the
there anything
private,
on the conservation?
I know down the private road where you've got some bungalows, you've got a few other houses.
Yes, they
back
go
of the post office.
straight on. Yeah.
They've got some PVC windows, but it's not really part of the
Facade of the
But
street.
all of these, I can't see one
Oh,
on the road that actually has UPVC.
No, I think they used a road like Birch Grove or Linden
Right,
Grove
but
as the example.
The
But they
adjacent.
can't use a road that's not on their road.
No,
It's,
that's what.
what they should be saying is, it should be in keeping with the houses on the avenue. And if the houses on the avenue are all wood frame, timber frame, then to me, it should be timber framed. It looks all timber to me, but less.
Sorry to be a pain, but we've got to extend the meeting. So can I get a proposed, please?
Yes.
Councillor Lester, can I get a second? Councillor Furman, could we go to the left? Okay, thank you. This is
Property within the staple growth conservation.
yeah, so it's in the state growth conservation area. So yeah, if it was my opinion, I'd be saying I'd recommend timber double glazed windows because as it's achievable. So Councillor Lester.
If it's in a conversation, I'm saying now, if it's in a conservation area, is there not a requirement? Is there not a conversation? And I'll get my words out in a minute. Is there not an opposite?
Yeah, you're right. I put that down as well.
So we could, I mean, I'm happy to go with whatever the conservation officer recommends, but I would have thought that they have something to say about a house having, plastic windows when all the other houses don't.
I can't see one.
Yeah, I made that note. Sorry, I forgot to say that I put has Somerset Council's heritage or conservative.
No, you can't. I say I've ruined it. For everybody.
Conservation officer commented, yeah, or will they do?
Conversational.
If you're scrolling down here, I think there is an example in this document where they're saying there's precedent by showing another UVP. What is that?
You
Getting late, isn't it?
But I don't think it's on the. It's
not on the avenue.
It's not on the avenue.
I can't see one on the avenue.
It says adjacent.
Yes, there is, so the building itself, from the look of it, if you look at the street view, Ollie, sorry to be a pain, at the back, they put an extension on number 16 and the extension has got PVC. So it's, if you go right on that junction,
Around the corner. That.
and then like there, exactly there, if you zoom in,
That's naughty. It's not on the road.
so that's the extension and that's PVC.
But if you haven't, but that's probably that is 20% of the property.
Like you said,
That's
that's
not
not on the street facade,
It's
is
a
it?
street
Yeah.
facade that, and they should be in keeping with.
There's another property along the avenue as well. All of these properties are stone. Brick.
Yeah.
They're a beautiful facade. Last summer, somebody decided to paint one white. We've got one property now painted white and the rest are all stone. Like, it doesn't mean it's right, but at the same time, if these properties aren't listed, so they can't, there's nothing to get in trouble. So, but I actually respect the people to come forward to put planning permission in to have new windows because a lot of people don't do that. But I actually think if they want to achieve more efficient windows, they can do that 100% of the timber.
For you?
Hold on. I might have to eat my words.
No, yeah, it's
There is.
Yeah, councillor.
I was going to, I guess, can we comment that as long as the style of the windows is in keeping, I mean, because probably you can get, can you get UPVC stash?
You can, but profiles. Problem is the profiles. That's it. Yeah, it's a lot more chunky.
Okay.
That's on the avenue. I think we might be
I
wrong.
think we found what. Stash.
You see if the letter.
That's the thing.
I think they say they've got precedent. I think they have.
actually, if it took us that long to find them, then they can't be that bad, can they? If you know what I mean. As long as there's.
Well, that's the Queen's College item, when they said about.
Just
changing
because-
that window,
yeah.
just because they don't, doesn't mean they've got.
Doesn't mean
that's
that's
right.
yeah.
So. Yeah, I'd like to comment.
I mean, where can we stand on this? If we, as a consultant, does it matter if we refuse it and Somerset Council
Passes it.
actually approve it, or is that not?
Yeah.
The one that I remember last year at Queen's, when we commented about that one, they actually went through.
Let's comment, say it should be in keeping with the rest of the wood sash windows.
Yeah, no, on this time, on the committee, I've seen quite a few times where we've made comments and applicants have either withdrawn or resubmitted or made changes based on what we said. So,
Mhm.
you know, I feel we do have a good debate. I would agree that I don't think having UPVC on the front of the property down the avenue would be a good idea, so I guess I would put in a neutral comment to say that would be the comment, not necessarily rejecting it, because there's no.
So I think to go down the grounds then, instead of objecting or supporting, we comment. And we go down the, it would be design, and number 2, design appearance, impact on public visual amenity. It's not, but obviously it's design and the appearance. I think comment to, we much prefer it being done in timber than PVC on the front windows.
Given it's in a conservation.
Yeah, given it's in conservation.
Yeah. Just going that.
How does it sound?
Yeah.
Does that sound good? Yep. Okay, could I get a proposer? Councillor Lester, could I get a seconder? Councillor Stayforth, could we go to the vote? It's carried. Thank you very much. The next one is 38 -26 -0046, retention of building works, etc. Erection of detached 3 number of bay cardboard to the front of 218 State Grove Road, Taunton, retention work really undertaken. Let's have a look at the existing drawing and then we'll look at the proposed, please.
Yeah, this would be just similar. This one.
I know the one you're thinking of, yeah, you're thinking the one up.
Then we'll go on proposed, please. Exact same presentation, really.
Most of they've already said.
Because they've already built
They've
it.
already done it.
That's
Yeah.
that's the problem. It's it's just gone and built it and then gone. We're supposed to have planning.
Well, I do actually quite like it.
I don't have a problem with it. I just wish they would put in planning, put in an application when they're supposed.
I can easily see people didn't realise they had to.
I'd rather see that in the concrete garage with, do you know what I mean? It's actually rather nice.
Nice.
But no, I don't have a problem with it, but they should just. They probably didn't go in.
I do like the fact that they've literally gone for the atlas of existing.
Just copied and pasted that.
As built.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I did think I was going crazy watching it. I was like, what's the plan?
Is it
I
visible?
don't think so. There may be a drawing they haven't attached.
No, it's just the back and it just looks like a shed out.
So that's the building there, is it? Is that 218 State Grove Road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next to the village.
No, I know.
Yeah, that's right.
It's behind it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not exactly an eyesore, is it?
No.
So, I can see it on the road, really.
Yeah. Okay, so could I get folks to support this?
So let's take it down for a while.
Councillor Perlman, could I get a seconder? Councillor Tully, if you go to the vote. Carried. Thank you very much. Next item is 38 -25 -0344 LB, list of building working consent, installation of an external handrail to the steps outside the Wyndham Gallery, Taunton Castle, Taunton. Haven't got a problem with this.
No.
This is exactly like the station. If got a problem.
Yeah.
Could I get a proposed to support? Councillor Lester, could I get a seconder? Councillor Stainforth, could we go to the vote? It's carried. Thank you. The next item is 38 -25 -0418, full planning permission, replacement of garage with the erection of a 2-story extension to the side of 14 Scots Close, Taunton.
There's no objections. Just thing that I'm just.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it looked all right to me.
If they remove the garages, they're still parking.
It's a fairly large plot.
That's.
Very
Let me have a look.
I guess the existence of the plot plans or.
Didn't have any issue with this, looking.
No, it looked fine. There was a fair. Well, actually works pretty well. Yeah, I mean, it's a fairly sizable.
Yeah.
Plot.
No, that's, and so I guess the little bits to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it looks like there's plenty of room in front of it.
Much surprised it wasn't done sooner.
Hmm.
Something like that.
Looks nice. It looks like it was, just saying.
Yeah. It makes use of it. It's a nice house to be an even nicer house.
Yeah. Is there any other points that people would like to raise? Brilliant support of this. Yeah, could I get a proposal? That's the trolley. Could we go to the second? No, second. That's the Stainport. Could we go to the vote?
It's happening. It's happening. Oh,
Honestly.
okay, time.
Next item is 38-26-0045. Full planning permission, erection of sinks floor extension to the side of Kingsview 9 Streamside, Taunton. Upon looking at this, didn't have a problem. I thought at first that I looked at the finished item and what they proposed, and I seen the glazed bit on top of the extension. I thought, oh, I'm not too sure on that. That actually was come from the conservatory, which has always been there.
Yeah.
So I literally have no issues with this.
There's no side windows overlooking anything.
Right.
I don't know if thoughts.
Would you guys like to have a look at it, any?
Glad you had a chance to look at this once now, Chair, so maybe the side photographs.
If I, yeah.
Oh, it's not bad.
So when you look at the front of this property like that. It's there.
To the back set, yeah. You're better to see the layout actually. It's a single story and there's no outside windows. It's the roof window.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're not affecting anybody else.
Post elevation ground floor and roof.
It's a scroll down, yeah.
It's just, it's like an infill up to that Barry Wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
it doesn't, there's a roof window, so there's no,
Yes.
it's not even looking out.
That's it, because obviously the Barrow Wall's actually
Yeah,
pretty much
yeah.
like they're going to. So
Yeah, it's the same
No.
underneath from the outside. Yeah. No problem.
no problem. So, okay, to support this, could I get a proposer? Councillor Stainford, could we get a seconder? Councillor Twos, could we go to the vote? It's carried. Thank you very much. Next item is 38-26-0018. Full planning permission, replacement of window with a bay window to the front of 18 Tamar Avenue, Taunton. Yeah, it seemed to me that they're replacing.
Take a look. I've never seen someone do this before. Yes, they're just pushing it out. Yeah, they're literally just
Pushing it out.
Yeah.
It's like, looks to me from Google Maps that the bay window itself currently is kind of like, they've not actually made a bay window as such. The window kind of goes out, but it's kind of being kind of lifted up on like a timber beam underneath.
Yes, so it's just the window.
Actual room instead of a window.
Yeah.
Not room. So
I know you mean.
No, it's so that
So
the actual
you've got
wall, so it doesn't
Internal
come.
floor space as opposed to
Yeah.
just the windows, a large window.
I think that's from the sounds of it, sort of trying to achieve.
One of the problems I have with the window, I'm not sure you want to do it, but
From a construction point, it's quite an easy thing because obviously the lintels already being in place
Yeah.
to allow for the window.
it's literally just put that underneath it.
No, no worries.
Fine.
You somehow lifting that up. Right, okay, so support this, could I get a proposer? Councillor Lester, can we get a second there? Councillor Tully, can we go to that? That's carried, thank you. The next item is submission and comments feedback on behalf of the town council to notification of planning application within each other. The one item that got highlighted was 38-26-0021-CMA. Application to determine if prior approval was required for the change of use and conversion from commercial, business and service use class E into 9 number of dwellings, class C3 at 60 High Street, Taunton. This is that.
Is this the one we looked at before, and the problems with the sizes of the rooms? Yeah, they just.
It's next door to bar 61. It's the Edinburgh Wall Shop. So it's in the same block.
Yes, the same block. Right.
I was gonna say, because actually the one below is 62, 63.
So what would you like to have a look at then?
Take a look at the internal layout new.
Yep, so let's have a look at the revised floor plan. Big unit, isn't it?
Going for the measurements, 37 plus.
I've checked, yeah, I've checked all of them and all of them.
And
match.
they'll
They all
all
meet the
comply.
requirements. Quite a few of them are over. They're quite generous actually.
And that's all they need to do, as long as they comply. And as you've said earlier, the shortage of one-bedroom apartments,
Nice.
and that makes a difference, you know. So where, so because that's the one, so that's the Edinburgh and Bullen Mill ones.
Yeah, so next door to
Yeah.
bar 61 where that was. So yeah.
That's nice.
I think they've got the room size correct.
Looks like it.
What's nice is that they haven't actually got, because they're actually dwellings instead of HMOs. Seems to be a lot better, in my opinion.
It makes such a difference. And how much nicer is that for somebody to live in?
Yeah.
Than my tries to, you know, the tiny shoeboxes without living rooms and.
So getting Phil to support this application, could I get a proposer? Councillor Stayford, could I get a seconder? Councillor Lester, can we go to the vote? That's carried. Thank you very much. Was there anything else anybody would like to note? Was there others?
Only
Councillor Lester.
only the one highlighted in yellow, the one below appears to be same type of application, but literally next door.
That is Mambo. That's
It's
bar 61.
It's the 62 and
Getting
63 high
days.
street four dwellings. So I assume they're somehow linked. That would just be my assumption. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but we just take a quick look at that one as well.
Oh, no, it's not.
Interesting to see if
Just to
the
see if
Have they got the
they've-
same, yeah,
they've
they've
got
done,
the same feel.
same developer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
is it?
Don't know.
It is a Taunton Central Holdings. Same.
good. So hopefully they've gone
Hopefully
the
it's
same
the
standards.
same, and then it's small, obviously, it's only 4 rather than 6.
Let's have a look at the Phil.
Oh, 9, sorry, 4 rather than 9.
floor plan.
Yeah,
Quick,
45,
yeah, fine,
48,
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, for the record, then I think what we're at it, might as well comment on this one as well, then, sure. Okay.
It's nice to see that they're nicely done, and it's what we need for the town.
I agree. Can we add that into the both of them? Is that okay? Support both, and then, okay. Right, could I get a proposal on this then, please? So Lester, could I get a seconder, please? So twos, could we go to the vote? It's carried. Thank you very much, everybody.
Doodle.
Oh, yeah, okay. We've just got to vote through any comments that were.
Got to vote through any comments that were received. On behalf of the town council. Could I possibly have a proposal to support? So please, could I get a seconder? Councillor Curran.
Well done.
We put you on occasion, yeah, you know, keep you involved.
And then it's house.
Yeah.
Person here.
I know I'm.